The morning started like any other on Earth. Admiral Jake Morrison was drinking his coffee in the command center when the screens went dark. Every single display, every communication device, every piece of technology connected to the global network suddenly showed the same thing. A face that was not human. The creature had pale blue skin stretched tight over a skull that was too long. Its eyes were black holes that seemed to swallow light. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. It spoke directly into the minds of every human being on Earth and across all 17 colonies. I am War Prime Thexkar of the Zephyrian Collective. Your species will surrender now. Morrison dropped his coffee cup. Around him, his staff stood frozen, their hands pressed to their heads as the alien voice continued. We have conquered 300 worlds. We have made slaves of 50 different species. You will join them, or you will die. Dr. Lisa Harper ran into the command center, her lab coat still on. She had been studying alien communication theories for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. The voice was not coming through their equipment. It was being broadcast directly into their brains. You have 72 hours, the alien continued. Dismantle your weapons, surrender your leaders, kneel before the collective, and some of you may live as servants. On the main screen, space around Earth lit up with thousands of ships. They were massive, each one larger than Earth's biggest space stations. The fleet stretched from Mercury to Mars, a wall of alien metal that blocked out the stars. Captain Ben Rodriguez burst through the doors. Sir, we're getting reports from all colonies. The same message, the same ships. They're everywhere. The alien face smiled, showing teeth, like broken glass. To show you the price of defiance, witness the fate of those who resist us. The screens changed. They now showed Proxima Centauri b, humanity's mining colony. 5,000 people lived there, working in the deep tunnels to extract rare metals. Morrison watched in horror as one of the alien ships fired a single beam of white light. The planet cracked like an egg. The beam cut through rock and metal as if they were paper. In seconds, the entire world split apart. Chunks of rock and ice scattered into space, glowing red-hot from the destruction. Every person on that world died in an instant. That was one ship, Thexkar said. One weapon. We have thousands more. 72 hours, humans. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The screens went back to normal, but nobody moved for a long time. Morrison was the first to break the silence. Get me the council. Emergency meeting. Now. The United Earth Council met in an underground bunker in Geneva. 50 leaders from every nation and colony gathered around a circular table. Outside, people were panicking. Some were praying. Others were looting stores. Many were just standing in the streets, looking up at the sky where the alien ships hung like dark clouds. The situation is clear, said President Elena Martinez of the Americas. We cannot fight them. Look what they did to Proxima. One shot destroyed an entire world. We have 17 colonies and 8 billion people on Earth, added Prime Minister David Chen of the Asian Federation. If we surrender, maybe some will survive. Morrison stood up. With respect, you're all missing something important. They called us servants, slaves. They didn't offer to let us keep our homes or our freedom. They want to own us. Dr. Harper connected her tablet to the main display. I've been analyzing their transmission. Their technology is incredible, but I noticed something. The neural broadcast uses a specific quantum frequency. If we can study it more... There's no time for study, interrupted Chancellor Weber of the European Union. They gave us 3 days. We need to make a decision. Commander, Kate Sullivan, head of military intelligence, spoke for the first time. I've run the numbers. They have at least 10,000 ships in our system. Our entire fleet is maybe 300 vessels. Most of those are cargo ships and science vessels. We have maybe 50 real warships. So we surrender, said President Martinez. We save what lives we can. No, Morrison said firmly. I've read the history books. I know what happens to people who surrender to conquerors. They become slaves for a few generations. Then they disappear. These aliens have destroyed 50 species. 50 entire peoples who probably thought the same thing you're thinking now. The room erupted in arguments. Some shouted for surrender. Others demanded they fight. A few suggested trying to negotiate. Morrison let them argue for 10 minutes, then stood up again. "I'm going to tell you something. My grandfather told me," he said. "He fought in World War III back when the water wars nearly destroyed this planet. He said the worst thing you can do is give up before the fight even starts, because once you're on your knees, you never get back up." "This isn't a war between humans," President Martinez said. "These are aliens with technology we can't match." "Maybe," Morrison replied, "but I'd rather die fighting than live as a slave, and I think most humans would agree with me." The vote was close, 26 to 24. Humanity would not surrender. Morrison returned to his command center to find his staff working frantically. Captain Rodriguez was coordinating with the colonies. Dr. Harper was trying to understand the alien technology. Commander Sullivan was planning defensive positions. "Sir," Rodriguez said, "I've got calls coming in from every colony. They want to know what we're going to do." Morrison looked at the main screen, where the alien fleet still hung in space like a promise of death. "We're going to send them a message." "What kind of message?" Sullivan asked. Morrison smiled grimly. "The kind they'll understand." It took 6 hours to set up the broadcast. Dr. Harper managed to reverse engineer enough of their neural transmission technology to send a message back on the same frequency. It wouldn't reach every alien mind like theirs had, but it would reach their command ships. Morrison stood in front of the camera, wearing his full dress uniform. Behind him was the flag of United Earth, showing the blue marble of their homeworld, surrounded by stars. "War Prime Thexkar," he began. "You asked humanity to kneel. Here is our answer. We kneel to no one. Not to you, not to your collective, not to anyone. If you want our worlds, you'll have to take them. And we promise you this. It won't be easy." The message was broadcast on every frequency, transmitted to every corner of human space. On Earth, in the colonies, on space stations and mining platforms, humans heard their admiral's words and stood a little straighter. The alien response came 12 hours later. It was not another transmission. It was weapons fire. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The first battle happened at New Geneva, humanity's newest colony. The Zephyrians came in force, 200 ships against the 12 human vessels stationed there. Captain Rodriguez commanded the defense from his flagship, the EDS Valiant. "All ships, this is Rodriguez. Remember, we're not trying to win, we're trying to learn." The alien ships moved in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish. They fired beams of pure energy that cut through human shields like they weren't there. The colony ship Manchester exploded in the first minute. The destroyer Kiev lasted 3 minutes before its hull melted away. But Rodriguez noticed something important. The alien weapons took time to recharge between shots. About 15 seconds. He spoke into his radio. "All ships, pattern Delta, hit them during their reload cycles." The remaining human ships spread out and attacked in waves. When the aliens fired, the humans pulled back. When the aliens reloaded, the humans struck. It wasn't enough to win, but it was enough to survive longer than expected. Dr. Alex Turner watched the battle from his laboratory on Earth. He was humanity's best quantum physicist, and he had been studying every second of alien technology they could record. The shields interested him most. "Computer, analyze the energy patterns from the Zephyrian defensive systems," he said. The computer worked for several minutes, then displayed its findings. Energy shields operate on quantum frequency 847.3 terahertz. Fluctuation pattern suggests harmonic resonance vulnerability. Turner's eyes went wide. Every shield had a frequency it operated on. If you could match that frequency exactly and reverse it, you could cancel out the shield entirely. It was like noise-canceling headphones, but for energy barriers. "Get me Admiral Morrison," Turner said. "I think I found something." On New Geneva, the battle was ending badly for humanity. Only 3 human ships were left, and they were all damaged. Captain Rodriguez knew they had maybe 5 minutes before the aliens finished them off. That's when Major Sam Parker's voice came over the radio. "Rodriguez, this is Parker. I'm on the surface with 50 Marines. We've got eyes on their landing party. Parker had been leading covert operations since the war started. He was the kind of soldier who could sneak into enemy camps and steal their breakfast without waking anyone. Right now he was hiding in the ruins of New Geneva's capital city, watching alien soldiers march through the streets. These things are big, Parker reported. Maybe 8 feet tall, but they move slow. Real slow. And they're not paying attention to their surroundings. It's like they've never had to worry about ambush attacks. Parker was right. The Zephyrians had conquered so many worlds that they expected every species to either surrender immediately or die quickly. They had never fought anyone who used guerrilla tactics. Parker, can you get close to their equipment? Rodriguez asked. Already on it, Parker replied. He and his Marines had been sneaking closer to the alien landing zone for an hour. The Zephyrians had set up some kind of communication device, a tall metal tower that hummed with energy. Parker planted explosives around the tower while his Marines kept watch. When it exploded, every alien in the city suddenly stopped moving. They stood still, for almost a minute, like computers that had crashed. They're connected, Parker realized. They're all connected to some kind of network. This was huge news. If the aliens relied on networked communication, then disrupting that network could paralyze them. Parker immediately started planning attacks on other communication towers. But the Zephyrians adapted quickly. Within hours they had backup systems running. The ground battle for New Geneva continued, and humanity was still losing. Above the planet, Captain Rodriguez made a hard choice. His ship was dying, his crew was injured, but he had one card left to play. All hands. This is the captain. Abandon. Ship. Get to the escape pods now. Sir? His first officer asked. What are you doing? I'm going to ram their command ship, Rodriguez said. Maybe we can learn something from the wreckage. The Valiant's crew evacuated quickly. Rodriguez stayed, behind alone on the bridge. He pointed his ship at the largest Zephyrian vessel and pushed the engines to maximum power. The aliens tried to stop him, but they were too late. The Valiant crashed into their command ship at nearly the speed of light. Both vessels exploded, in a ball of fire that lit up the entire system. When the flames cleared, there was debris everywhere. Human and alien technology mixed together, floating in space. Commander Nina Brooks, leading a rescue mission from Earth, immediately began collecting everything she could find. Get me samples of their hull metal, their computer systems, anything that survived, she ordered. Rodriguez died to get us this information. We're not going to waste it. Dr. Turner worked for 3 days straight, analyzing the debris. What he found changed everything. The alien ships were incredibly advanced, but they had one major weakness. Their technology was biological. The ships weren't just machines. They were partially alive. The computer systems used organic neural networks like giant brains. The weapons were powered by biological processes. It's like they merged themselves with their technology, Turner explained to Admiral Morrison. Their ships think and feel. That's why they're so smart. But it's also why they have that quantum frequency vulnerability. Living tissue creates specific energy patterns. Dr. Rachel Green, Earth's best bioweapons expert, was called in to help. She was a quiet woman who preferred working with microscopes to people, but she understood biology better than anyone. If their technology is partially alive, she said, then it can get sick. It can be poisoned. It can die. Green started working on 2 projects. The first was a biological weapon that would only affect Zephyrian tissue. The second was a virus that could infect their computer systems, since those systems were partially biological too. Meanwhile, Colonel Pete Adams was changing how humanity fought on the ground. Adams had studied every guerrilla war in human history, and he understood something important. When you're outnumbered and outgunned, you don't fight fair. Forget everything you know about military tactics, he told his officers. We're not fighting a human army. We're fighting aliens who expect us to line up and march toward their guns like good little soldiers. We're going to do the opposite. Adams trained his soldiers to fight like ghosts. They would attack supply lines, then disappear. They would plant bombs in enemy camps, then vanish into the wilderness. They would make the aliens afraid to leave their ships. The new tactics worked on 3 different worlds, Human ground forces stopped losing and started making the aliens nervous. The Zephyrians had superior technology, but they didn't know how to fight an enemy that refused to stand still and be shot. Lieutenant Amy Foster was chosen for the most dangerous mission of all. She was humanity's best pilot, with reflexes fast enough to fly through asteroid fields at full speed. Dr. Turner needed someone to test fly a captured Zephyrian fighter. "The controls are biological," Turner warned her. "You'll have to connect directly to the ship's nervous system. We don't know what that will do to you." Foster climbed into the alien cockpit without hesitation. The moment she connected to the ship's neural interface, her mind was flooded with alien thoughts and memories. She saw flashes of other worlds, other species that had been conquered. She felt the cold satisfaction the ship felt when it killed. But she also understood how it worked. The alien ships weren't just controlled by computers. They were controlled by living minds that could be confused, frightened, or tricked. "I can fly it," Foster reported, "and more importantly, I know how to beat it." The tide was starting to turn. Humanity had new weapons, new tactics, and new understanding of their enemy. They were still outnumbered, but they were no longer helpless. The real test came at Wolf 359, where the aliens gathered their largest fleet to attack Earth's main shipyard. This time, humanity was ready. Dr. Turner's quantum disruptors shut down alien shields. Dr. Green's biological weapons made their ships sick. Colonel Adams' guerrilla fighters attacked their supply lines. Lieutenant Foster led a squadron of human pilots who had learned to think like the aliens. For the first time since the war began, humanity won a major battle. 50 alien ships were destroyed or captured. The rest retreated. War Prime Thexkar received the reports with growing concern. These humans were not behaving like any species he had conquered before. They were learning too fast, adapting too quickly. They were becoming dangerous. But Thexkar had made a fatal mistake. He thought danger was something that could be controlled. He didn't understand that he had awakened something far worse than dangerous. He had awakened humanity's capacity for revenge. 3 months after the victory at Wolf 359, humanity was changing. The scared civilians who had watched their world nearly end were becoming something harder, something colder. Admiral Morrison stood in the war room, looking at a map of human space. Red dots showed where the aliens held territory. Blue dots showed human colonies. There was a lot more red than blue. "They control 60% of our space," Commander Kate Sullivan reported. "But their advance has stopped. They're being more careful now." Dr. Lisa Harper, now serving as head of Alien Affairs, added her analysis. "Our prisoner interrogations reveal something interesting. The Zephyrians are confused. In their experience, species either surrender immediately or die quickly. We're doing neither." The prisoners were a source of valuable intelligence. Major Sam Parker had become an expert at capturing alien soldiers alive. His teams would strike fast, take prisoners, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. "They keep asking the same question," Parker said. "Why don't we just give up? They genuinely don't understand why we keep fighting when we're clearly outmatched." Dr. Alex Turner entered the room carrying a metal cylinder. It was about the size of a coffee can, but it hummed with energy. "Gentlemen, ladies, I'd like to introduce you to the Quantum Resonance Disruptor, version 2.0. The new weapon was smaller than the first version, but much more powerful. It could now shut down alien shields from twice the distance and keep them down for 30 minutes instead of 30 seconds. "How many can we build?" Morrison asked. "Our factories are producing 50 per day," Turner replied. "We'll have enough to outfit the entire fleet within 2 months." Dr. Rachel Green had been busy too. Her biological weapons had evolved from simple toxins to sophisticated viruses that could reprogram alien technology. "Their ships are getting sick," she reported with satisfaction. Really sick. The latest virus she had created didn't just damage alien systems. It made them turn against each other. Infected ships would start firing on their own fleets, their biological computers convinced that their allies were enemies. "We've also made progress on the atmospheric incinerator," Green continued. It's a weapon that can make an entire planet's air toxic to Zephyrian biology within hours. The air remains breathable for humans and most other species, but it's deadly to them. Morrison nodded grimly. The atmospheric incinerator was originally designed as a defensive weapon, something to make conquered human worlds uninhabitable for the aliens. But lately, Morrison had been thinking about other uses for it. Lieutenant Amy Foster had become humanity's top pilot, flying captured alien ships better than their original crews. She had trained a squadron of 40 pilots who could think like the aliens, predict their moves, and exploit their weaknesses. "We've learned something important about their psychology," Foster reported. "They're not individuals like us. They're more like a hive mind. When you disrupt their communication, they panic. When you do something unexpected, it takes them a long time to adapt." Commander Steve Clark had been leading deep space reconnaissance missions into alien territory. His ships were small and fast, designed to scout enemy positions without being detected. What he found was disturbing. "They have supply depots scattered throughout their empire," Clark reported. "Massive stations that support hundreds of worlds. But here's the interesting part. They're not well defended. They've never had to worry about enemy raids before." The Zephyrian supply chain was designed for conquest, not defense. They built their depots in empty space, far from any planets that might harbor resistance. It made sense when fighting species that surrendered quickly, but it created vulnerabilities that humanity could exploit. Colonel Pete Adams had expanded his guerrilla warfare program across all human territories. His fighters didn't wear uniforms or follow traditional military rules. They were ghosts who struck without warning and vanished without trace. "The aliens are starting to show signs of stress," Adams reported. "Their soldiers are jumpy, paranoid. They're shooting at shadows. Some of their units have stopped leaving their ships entirely." The psychological warfare was working better than anyone had expected. The Zephyrians were used to fighting enemies who stood and fought or ran and hid. They had no experience with enemies who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Mike Johnson, a planetary engineer who had been working on terraforming projects, made a discovery. That changed everything. "I was studying the debris from Proxima Centauri b," Johnson explained to the senior staff. "The weapon they used to destroy the planet was incredibly powerful, but it left traces, energy signatures that tell us exactly how it works." Johnson's analysis revealed that the planet killer weapon worked by destabilizing the quantum structure of matter itself. It was like pulling one thread that unraveled an entire sweater, except the sweater was made of atoms. "The technology is actually quite simple once you understand the principle," Johnson continued. "And I believe we can build something similar. Maybe not as powerful as theirs, but powerful enough." Morrison felt a cold smile spread across his face. "How long to build a prototype?" 6 months, maybe less if we get full priority." "You have it, whatever you need, whatever it costs. Build it." The first test of humanity's new weapons came at the Battle of Kepler Station. The aliens had established a major base there, using it to launch attacks on human colonies. It was time to send them a message. Fleet Admiral Tony Martinez led the attack with humanity's newest ships. They were smaller than alien vessels, but faster and equipped with all of humanity's technological advances. Quantum disruptors shut down enemy shields. Biological viruses infected their computer systems. And for the first time, humans had numerical superiority. "All ships, this is Martinez. Remember what they did to Proxima. Today we return the favor." The battle was one-sided. Alien ships that had been invincible just months earlier now exploded like firecrackers. Their formations broke apart as infected vessels turned on their allies. Within 2 hours, the entire enemy fleet was destroyed. But Martinez wasn't finished. He had brought Dr. Johnson's new atmospheric incinerator, and Kepler Station had a breathable atmosphere that was home to 10,000 alien colonists. "Deploy the weapon," Martinez ordered. The incinerator activated with a soft hum. It released engineered bacteria into Kepler's atmosphere, bacteria that produced toxins deadly to Zephyrian biology but harmless to everything else. Within 6 hours, every alien on the planet was dead. Martinez broadcast a message on all frequencies. This is Admiral Martinez of the Human Defense Force. Any alien forces listening should take note. Kepler Station has been cleansed. Its atmosphere is now toxic to your species but safe for ours. We're not just fighting back anymore, we're taking your worlds. The message reached War Prime Thexkar on his flagship, deep in Zephyrian space. For the first time in his long military career, Thexkar felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. "How many ships did we lose at Kepler?" he asked his aide. "All of them. War Prime. 300 vessels, plus the entire ground garrison. And human casualties. According to our intelligence, fewer than 50. Thexkar studied the tactical display, where red dots representing destroyed Zephyrian forces far outnumbered blue dots, representing human losses. This was not how conquests were supposed to work. Send a communication to the human leaders. He ordered. Tell them we are willing to negotiate a ceasefire. The human response came 12 hours later. It was not from their government or military command. It came from Admiral Morrison personally, broadcast on the same neural frequency the Zephyrians used for their ultimatum. War Prime Thexkar, you offered us a choice, kneel or die. Now we offer you the same choice. Withdraw from all human territory and never return, or face the consequences. You have 72 hours to decide. Thexkar stared at the communication display in disbelief. These humans, these primitives who should have been conquered in days, were now giving him ultimatums. War Prime, his aide said quietly. Perhaps we should consider their terms. Never, Thexkar snarled. We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have conquered 300 worlds. We do not negotiate with food. But privately, Thexkar was beginning to realize that these humans were not food. They were something far more dangerous. They were predators who had been pretending to be prey, and now they were hungry. Captain Luke Roberts commanded one of humanity's new stealth ships, designed to slip past alien sensors undetected. His mission was simple: find important Zephyrian targets and eliminate them. Approaching the Rigel supply depot, Roberts reported to Earth. Sensors show minimal defenses. Beginning attack run. The depot was enormous, a space station the size of a small moon. It supplied 40 different Zephyrian worlds and supported nearly 1 million alien military personnel. It had never been attacked, because no conquered species had ever retained the ability to mount deep space operations. Roberts's ship fired a single quantum torpedo loaded with Dr. Green's latest virus. The weapon penetrated the station's shields and released its payload into the computer systems. Within minutes, the entire depot was convulsing as its biological technology died. Emergency systems failed. Life support collapsed. Artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. The station began tearing itself apart as infected systems spread the virus. 6 months after Kepler Station, humanity had transformed from a species fighting for survival into something much more dangerous: hunters who had found their prey. Admiral Morrison stood before the United Earth Council, but this was not the same desperate group that had voted to resist the aliens. These people had watched their enemies burn, and they liked what they saw. The Zephyrian Collective has lost over 200 worlds to our forces, Morrison reported. Their military is in full retreat. Their supply lines are collapsing. We estimate their effective combat strength has been reduced by 70%. President Elena Martinez leaned forward. What are our casualties? Minimal. We've lost maybe 10,000 military personnel total. The aliens have lost approximately 50 million. The numbers were staggering. Humanity had gone from being the victim to being so dominant that the war was becoming a slaughter. But nobody in the room looked uncomfortable with that fact. Fleet Admiral Tony Martinez had become humanity's leading expert on planetary warfare. His fleets roamed freely through former Zephyrian space, striking targets of opportunity and leaving nothing but ash behind. The planet Zarian Prime surrendered without a fight, Martinez reported during a staff meeting. 2 million alien civilians, what are your orders? Morrison considered the question carefully. 6 months ago, he would have accepted the surrender and established occupation forces. Now, he had different priorities. Use the atmospheric incinerator. Make sure the planet can support human colonists afterward. Understood, sir. Dr. Mike Johnson's weapons had evolved beyond simple atmospheric poisons. His latest creation could manipulate a planet's core temperature, triggering massive volcanic eruptions that would reshape continents. It was called the geological destabilizer, and it could turn any world into a hellscape within days. We tested it on an uninhabited world in the Vega system, Johnson reported to the senior staff. The results exceeded expectations. The entire planetary surface was resurfaced with molten rock. Anyone living there would have been vaporized instantly. Dr. Rachel Green had moved beyond biological weapons to something even more terrifying. Her new creation was called the Evolutionary Accelerator. It could force any species to evolve rapidly, but in ways that made them weaker, not stronger. The test subjects began developing severe genetic defects within hours, Green explained. Muscle weakness, organ failure, neurological collapse. It's like forcing cancer into their entire species at once. Colonel Beth Williams had taken over the interrogation of captured Zephyrians. What she learned from them was both useful and disturbing. They're not just a military empire, Williams reported. They're a religious one. They believe that conquest is their divine right, that other species exist only to serve them. They've enslaved entire civilizations for thousands of years. The revelations about Zephyrian culture removed any remaining doubts about humanity's actions. These were not just enemies, they were genocidal monsters who had wiped out dozens of intelligent species. Whatever humanity did to them, they deserved worse. Captain Luke Roberts had become the most feared human in Zephyrian space. His stealth ship, the EDS Ghost, could appear anywhere without warning. Alien commanders lived in terror of seeing its distinctive energy signature on their sensors. Approaching the Altair Command Center, Roberts reported. This is their regional headquarters for this entire sector. If we take it out, we'll blind them across 50 star systems. The command center was heavily defended, surrounded by a fleet of their most advanced warships. But Roberts had learned something important about alien psychology. They thought defensively, not offensively. Ghost to Earth command. I'm not going to attack their ships. I'm going to go straight for the station. Roberts' ship phased through. The alien fleet using new cloaking technology based on captured Zephyrian stealth systems. The aliens never saw him coming until his torpedo struck the command center's reactor core. The explosion was visible from 12 light-years away. The command station, its defensive fleet, and the nearby moon were all vaporized in a blast that temporarily created a new star in the Altair system. Target eliminated, Roberts reported calmly. All enemy forces in this sector are now deaf, dumb, and blind. Estimated casualties, 5 million military personnel plus infrastructure support. General Kevin Moore was in charge of occupation forces on conquered worlds. His job was to decide what happened to alien civilians after their governments fell. It was not a job that required much compassion. Planet Zephyr 7 has been pacified, Moore reported. The civilian population has been relocated to designated containment areas. The planet's resources are now available for human exploitation. The containment areas were not comfortable. They were not meant to be. Alien civilians lived in crowded camps with minimal food and medical care. Most died within a year, but that was considered acceptable collateral damage. What about the children? Asked Dr. Lisa Harper, who still retained some of her original humanitarian instincts. Alien children grow up to be alien adults, Moore replied coldly. We're not running an orphanage. Dr. Helen White had joined the weapons development program and quickly surpassed even Dr. Johnson's achievements. Her masterpiece was the Stellar Manipulation Array, a weapon that could destabilize stars themselves. We can trigger a controlled supernova, White explained to the senior staff. The explosion will sterilize everything within a 20 light-year radius. Any species, any technology, any hope of survival, all gone. Morrison studied the technical specifications. The weapon was incredibly complex, requiring precise calculations and enormous amounts of energy, but it was possible. How many systems could we target simultaneously? With our current resources, maybe 5 or 6. But if we dedicated our entire industrial capacity to building these weapons, We could sterilize hundreds of star systems within a year. The moral implications were staggering. They were talking about weapons that could exterminate entire civilizations, not just military forces. But nobody in the room seemed troubled by the concept. Captain Janet Stone commanded the newest class of human warships, vessels that were bigger and more heavily armed than anything in history. Her flagship, the EDS Retribution, was the size of a small moon and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. "We've located the Zephyrian homeworld," Stone reported during a secure communication. "It's heavily defended but not beyond our capabilities. The planet has a population of approximately 8 billion aliens." Morrison felt a cold satisfaction at the news. The war had started with the Zephyrians demonstrating their power by destroying Proxima Centauri b and its 5,000 human colonists. Now humanity had the power to return the favor 8 billion times over. "Prepare the assault fleet," Morrison ordered. "But don't attack yet. I want to give them the same choice they gave us." The message was broadcast throughout Zephyrian space using their own communication network. Morrison appeared on every screen, in every bunker, in every desperate hiding place where the aliens were trying to survive humanity's advance. "People of the Zephyrian Collective, this is Admiral Morrison of the Human Defense Force. Your war prime demanded that humanity kneel. We refused. Now it is your turn to choose. Surrender unconditionally, or face the consequences." The response came from War Prime Thexkar himself, transmitted from a heavily shielded bunker on the Zephyrian homeworld. He looked older than before, his pale blue skin now gray with stress. "Admiral Morrison, you speak of consequences, but you are already committing genocide. You have murdered billions of innocent civilians. You have destroyed entire worlds. How are you different from the monsters you claim we are?" Morrison's reply was broadcast throughout human space as well as alien territory. When people heard it, they cheered. "The difference, Thexkar, is simple. You started this war by trying to make us slaves. We're going to finish it by making sure you never threaten anyone again. Ever. And if we surrender, then you'll live in the same kind of conditions you planned for us. You'll work in our mines, serve in our factories, and die when we decide you're no longer useful. The only difference is that we'll let some of you live, which is more mercy than you showed the 50 species you exterminated." Thexkar's transmission ended without a response. 3 hours later, his government sent an official reply. They would fight to the last alien rather than surrender. Morrison had expected that answer. In fact, he had hoped for it. "Captain Stone, you are authorized to begin the final assault. Show them what happens when they make humanity kneel." The attack on the Zephyrian homeworld began with Dr. White's stellar manipulation weapon. The system's star began to fluctuate, growing brighter and hotter. Within hours, the outer planets were uninhabitable. Within days, the homeworld itself would be too hot to support life. But Morrison wasn't willing to wait that long. Captain Stone's fleet, supported by thousands of smaller vessels, moved in to finish the job personally. The battle for the Zephyrian homeworld lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the planet was a ball of molten rock orbiting a dying star. 8 billion aliens had been reduced to atoms and energy. Humanity had learned an important lesson from their first contact with aliens. Mercy was not just weakness, it was stupidity. From now on, when humanity encountered a hostile species, there would be no negotiations. 1 year after the destruction of the Zephyrian homeworld, humanity controlled half of their former empire. The other half was either burning or about to burn. Grand Admiral Carl Fisher stood on the bridge of the EDS Dominion, humanity's newest flagship. It was not just a warship. It was a mobile command center for the complete extermination of an entire species. Through the viewport, he could see the remains of what had once been the industrial heart of the Zephyrian Collective. "Status report," Fisher ordered. Captain Janet Stone, now his second in command, consulted her tablet. "Sector 7 is complete. All 15 worlds have been sterilized. Sector 8 is in progress. The atmospheric incinerators are working on 6 worlds simultaneously. Sectors 9 through 15 are awaiting orders." Fisher nodded with satisfaction. The systematic destruction of the Zephyrian Collective was proceeding ahead of schedule. They had reduced a 300-world empire to fewer than 50 worlds in just 18 months. Any surrender attempts? 17 worlds have offered unconditional surrender in the past week, Stone replied. General Moore's occupation forces have processed them according to Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was simple. All alien military personnel were executed immediately. All civilian adults were worked to death in mining operations. Children were studied briefly, then eliminated as potential future threats. Worlds were stripped of all useful resources, then sterilized to prevent any possibility of recovery. Dr. Helen White had perfected her stellar manipulation technology. Her weapons could now trigger supernovae with pinpoint accuracy, eliminating entire star systems without affecting neighboring regions. She reported to Fisher daily on her progress. The Betelgeuse operation was successful, White said during the morning briefing. 7 star systems eliminated simultaneously. Estimated alien casualties 40 billion. Estimated human casualties 0. The numbers had lost all meaning. Humanity was no longer counting individual deaths. They were counting entire civilizations. The Zephyrian Collective, which had once boasted of conquering 50 species, was now just another extinct civilization in humanity's growing collection. Dr. White, how many stellar manipulation arrays do we currently have operational? Fisher asked. 57, with 20 more coming online each month. At current production rates, we can sterilize the remaining alien worlds within 6 months. But Fisher wasn't satisfied with simple extermination. He wanted to send a message that would echo across the galaxy for 1,000 years. He wanted every alien species to know what happened to those who threatened humanity. Commander Steve Clark had expanded his reconnaissance operations throughout the known galaxy. His ships now ranged hundreds of light years beyond former Zephyrian space, mapping alien civilizations and assessing their potential as future threats. We've identified 43 different species within scanning range, Clark reported. 12 of them appear to have interstellar capabilities. 7 have military technologies that could potentially threaten human interests. And the others? Fisher asked. Primitive. Pre-industrial or early industrial development. Not immediate threats, but they could become problems in a few centuries. Fisher considered this information carefully. Humanity had learned the importance of eliminating threats before they became dangerous. The Zephyrians had been allowed to develop their empire unopposed for thousands of years. Humanity would not make the same mistake with other species. Begin preparation for preemptive strikes against any species showing signs of aggressive expansion, Fisher ordered. We're not going to wait for the next Zephyrian collective to knock on our door. Dr. Mike Johnson had moved beyond planetary weapons to something even more ambitious. His new project involved manipulating the quantum structure of space itself, creating regions where matter could not exist in stable form. We call it the reality disruption field, Johnson explained to the senior staff. Anything that enters the affected area simply ceases to exist. Not destroyed, not converted to energy, it just stops being real. The weapon was tested on a Zephyrian colony world that had tried to hide by disabling all its technology and pretending to be uninhabited. The reality disruption field was activated for exactly 1 second. When it shut off, there was nothing left but empty space. The planet, its star, and everything else in the system had simply vanished. Range and duration? Fisher asked. Current. Prototype can affect an area roughly 1 light-year in diameter for up to 10 seconds. We estimate we could eliminate an entire galaxy arm with a sufficiently large version. The implications were terrifying even by humanity's new standards. They were developing weapons that could delete reality itself. But Fisher's only concern was practical. How many could they build? General Kevin Moore had become humanity's expert on what he called post-victory operations. His job was managing the aftermath of conquest, deciding what to do with captured territory and surviving alien populations. The containment camps are exceeding capacity, Moore reported. We have approximately 50 million alien civilians in custody across 23 worlds. The work details are producing useful resources, but the death rate is higher than projected. How much higher? Fisher asked. 96% annual mortality rate. At current rates, all alien prisoners will be dead within 18 months. Fisher considered this acceptable. Keeping alien populations alive required resources that could be better used for military operations. If they all died, it would simply speed up the colonization process, continue current operations. When the camps are empty, convert them to human settlements. Captain Luke Roberts had become something of a legend among human forces. His stealth ship had penetrated deeper into alien space than any other vessel, striking targets that the enemy thought were completely safe. "I've reached the Zephyrian government in exile," Roberts reported from deep space. "They've established a new capital on a world called Sanctuary, about 200 light-years from their original homeworld. Population appears to be about 50 million, mostly government officials, military leaders, and their families." This was the prize Fisher had been waiting for. The surviving Zephyrian leadership had gathered in one place, probably believing they were safe at such a distance from human forces. They were wrong. "Can you reach them with current technology?" Fisher asked. "Negative. Too far for a single ship, and the route passes through regions controlled by 3 other alien species. I'd need a full battle fleet and probably diplomatic clearance to avoid starting new wars." Fisher smiled coldly. "Captain Roberts, I think you underestimate our current diplomatic position. We're not asking anyone for permission anymore. The, expedition to Sanctuary became humanity's largest military operation to date. Grand Admiral Fisher personally commanded a fleet of over 10,000 ships, including 50 stellar manipulation arrays and every other advanced weapon humanity had developed. The fleet didn't sneak through alien space. It went through openly, destroying anything that tried to stop it. When the Kalani Confederacy demanded they turn back, humanity responded by sterilizing the Kalani homeworld as a demonstration of their new diplomatic policy. When the Plix Republic tried to block their passage, humanity eliminated the entire Plix species in a single day using reality disruption fields. The message was clear. Anyone who interfered with human operations would be extinct within hours. The journey to Sanctuary took 3 months and left 5 different alien civilizations completely destroyed. By the time the human fleet arrived, at the Zephyrian refuge, the galaxy had learned that humanity was no longer just another species. They were the apex predators of known space. War Prime Thexkar was dead, killed in the destruction of his homeworld. The surviving Zephyrian government was led by his successor, War Prime Vextha, a younger alien who had been off-world when humanity began their campaign of extermination. Vextha's final transmission to the approaching human fleet was broadcast throughout the galaxy on all known frequencies. It became known as the Sanctuary Address, and it was heard by hundreds of different alien species, humans of Earth. "You came to us as victims, begging for mercy we would not give. Now you come as conquerors, and we beg for the mercy we once denied you. We know we deserve none. We know our species has committed terrible crimes against yours and many others, but I ask you to consider the cost of what you have become. You have exterminated billions of innocent civilians. You have destroyed entire worlds that had never harmed you. You have become the greatest monsters the galaxy has ever known, and you did it in the name of justice. But what justice is there in the extinction of children? What honor is there in the murder of entire civilizations? Kill us if you must. We will not resist. But remember that the galaxy is watching, and they will judge you by what you do here today." The transmission ended. Grand Admiral Fisher's response was brief and final. "War Prime Vextha, you're right about one thing. We have become monsters. Your species made us this way when you demanded that humanity kneel. Now you will learn what monsters do to those who create them." The destruction of Sanctuary took exactly 17 minutes. Dr. White's stellar weapons destabilized the system's star, while Captain Stone's battle fleet eliminated every ship, station, and settlement in the region. The last 50 million Zephyrians died screaming as their final refuge was